was approved.
Уходите.
The team or the PM said we would need additional 1 day, no cost, great, or he can come back and say it's going to take us a couple more weeks, and with the addition of another $10,000, the sponsor will have to approve it. Once it's approved, then the PM is going to announce to everyone, communicate to everyone that the change was approved, and it's going to go back to the execution phase where they're going to start to build on that. And so the PM is going to go back to his job, do directing and managing project work while this new change is being worked on. All right. So while all this stuff is happening in the execution phase, there are documents that are getting created, right? There were documents initially in the planning phase, requirements and change and the budgets and schedule and risk analysis and all of those documents. It's very possible in the execution phase there will be additional documents that are being put together. So somebody has to take care of the documents too. So that's why we have this managed project knowledge. Project knowledge consists of the know-how, the documents, the deliverables, all that information that's being put in. If the system was the project, what's going in and what's coming out, we have to make sure we document everything, capture all the information. So when we go live, we can transition the project to operations, right? It's going to go to operations and we can give them a manual. This is how this application works. Here's the manual. And so we compiled the procedures for how to run this application, which we built, and then it gets handed off over to the operational staff, and then they move and the project gets closed, transitioned, and then they take it from there. All right. So while the product is being built, the PM is directing and managing project work. PM is also monitoring and controlling project work. Remember the MNC, this arrow that goes in and out, monitoring control. So monitoring control is also happening. The directing and managing project work, the main outcome in that process is the deliverables. Is the deliverables complete or not? If it's complete, great. If not, then go back and fix it. So that's what's happening in the direct and managing project work. Monitor and control is all about risks. Are we controlling the triple constraint, the cost, the budget, the scope, those things, the quality? That's what's happening in the monitor and control project work. That's also the responsibility of monitoring and controlling the project also falls on the PM. So here, thus far, what I'm explaining to you is as if we are now past the point of planning. We are into the execution, and we are actually building the product and what's going on there. So monitor control is continuing while the execution continues. Once the deliverable has been showcased, shown to the customer, and they have driven it, they have tested it, and they're happy with it, then we are going to close the project. Now, there is another step here, and I already talked about the ICC, or Integrated Change Control. This is to take care of the CRs. So which is right here. This is the step which I already discussed here. So this is the perform integrated change control. So that's also the responsibility of the PM. So the PM is responsible for the change control. The PM is responsible for monitoring and controlling the project work. The PM is responsible for directing and managing project work. But the team is responsible for building the product. So it's almost like if you're looking at a circle, the PM is on the outside of the circle, and the team is inside the circle building the product. And from the outside of that, the PM is watching in, directing them, managing project work, looking at what they're producing, and monitoring and controlling them and taking care of CRs, change requests, by going through the integrated change control in a predictive type environment. In an agile type requirement, PM is or Scrum Master is doing the same exact thing. It's just that there is no red tape. Changes are coming in, they're getting approved right away by the product owner or not being done. One of the two things. As far as the monitoring and controlling, that's happening. The Scrum Master is still making sure everybody's following the rules of an agile project. Directing and manage project work, that is still happening, but the team is self managing, because a small team in agile, the team is very small, so they self manage. They pretty much take care of what they're producing, and they're cohesively working together productively and collaboratively. So the Scrum Master doesn't have to do a whole lot. All the Scrum Master is doing is having those daily stand-up meetings, 15-minute stand-up meetings. What did you do yesterday? What did you do today? And if there are any roadblocks, that's the job of the Scrum Master primarily. And if there is something significant, there is a roadblock, then they discuss that after the Scrum, the daily Scrum meeting. On the predictive side, it's just those scheduled meetings that they have, 1 or 2 meetings a week, in which they're doing all of this stuff. All right, so now let's focus on the closing part. So now we know we have completely solved the problem. The customer's happy, they have signed off. Now let's close this project. So we are going to look at the project documents. We're going to make sure we have all of them completed. All the deliverables have been accepted. Any agreements, any contracts that are open should be closed. So we look at the contracts, make sure that if there are any open accounts, we have you paid the vendor for the services they have provided or not. If we have not, we pay them, and then we close the contract, move the project from the project phase to a operational phase into maintenance phase, where we're going to maintain the contract from now on, maintain the product. If this was completed or deployed with the help of vendor. The procurement documentation, if the vendor was involved, we're going to put those aside. Any lessons learned, we're going to document those. So the outcome is lessons learned and the deliverable, the product, what you have built, and a final report. A final report. All right, so this is in a nutshell what we're going to talk about today in the following 10-15 slides. Then we'll jump to problems. I'm going to pause here. Any questions? Okay, so looks good. Let's move on. Let's go on to the chapter. And so now that I've given you a high level, so I think it'd be easy for you to follow the chapter now. The planning, the charter, so the test. Okay, what you see here, these concepts on the first page is in the book also. So this is a good way for you to review whether you know all of these things or not. When it comes to change request, if you notice here, there are two things you could do with the change. You could try to minimize change by doing preventive type work before you have to do a corrective type work, right? Corrective type work is if something happens and that ends up with a change, then you have to correct whatever caused it. You have to correct it. But on the other hand, if you are very proactive and always looking for continuous improvement, you're going to be involved in the preventive actions. Prevent from things becoming a change, right? You don't want the customer to say, I want something new, right? You just want to do all that planning upfront especially in predictive, as much as possible, right? You in agile, it's understood that customer will want to change. That's why we go through the agile sprint process, one sprint at a time, because we know the requirements are very fuzzy, that whatever we're producing may not be exactly like like what's expected, but we're trying to get close to it. So we do one sprint, we showcase that to the customer. The customer will accept it or reject it and offer some new changes. We go back and do those changes in the next sprint and so forth. And then we release the product after a couple of sprints. In the predictive, so that's all adaptive. So adaptive is agile. Adaptive is agile. Predictive is waterfall. So predictive is waterfall. All right, so we're going to keep those two in mind as I review this a little bit more in depth. But I think I've given you a good idea, so this would be easy. So this is just the first page, and we're going to go through this in the next slide, couple of slides. So process. The process, we have discussed the process, right? This is the process right on top here. Develop charter. That's the first step. Once you get the charter, you go into coming up with a plan. And in the plan, you're going to gather requirements, which is your first step. Do your scope statement, then come up with a schedule, and you're ready to go into execution, where you direct and manage the work, manage the knowledge, take care of change requests here, and monitor and control while you are directing the project and building the product. And then you sign off here from the customer, and you close the project. So that's the process. In the exam, they will ask you after you have the charter, what is the next step? That's the plan. And what's the first thing you do as part of planning? Gather the requirements. Remember, gathering the requirements is the first step. In case of a buy, you still need requirements. You still need requirements so that you can complete a scope of work, and then do your procurement steps, right? RFP stuff. All right. Project life cycle. So this is a review. There's a product life cycle and there is a project life cycle. We know what the difference is. The project life cycle is starting from day one to the point where you close the project. Everything that happens in between is the project life cycle. Product life cycle begins somewhere in the execution phase and continues past closing and continues beyond that, right? Until we scuttle or demolish or crash or destroy the product. And then the cycle ends for the product. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. Development approach. Now, development approach is when you go into execution, we have to do a couple of things, and that's what they're calling this development approach. How are we going to develop this product? And the standard way to develop any product is to build it first, then you test it, get your validation from the user that they're good with it, and then you start training the end users on using the product. So this is a very generic standard development cycle, a development approach. Now, in the agile, it's the same thing. You're building it, you're testing it, and then in the sprint review, you're validating it. Now, there may be a little bit of training, maybe not. It depends, right? But if not, then you don't need the training. If you do, then you need the training. Now, the change management, which is right here, is where you have a very large project. So if you have a very large project, you need change management. If it's a very small project, you probably don't need change management. But from a PMP standpoint, the projects that they have in mind for you, for the folks who want to get a PMP, they are thinking in terms of large projects. So change management is happening along with training, and change management has to do with user adoption. User adoption. So training is obviously helping with that as well, right? When you train people, you are also trying to get the user to adopt to this change that you're bringing on as a result of this new product or house or rocket or whatever, right? So as part of this change management process, you're going to be communicating. You'll be communicating maybe in terms of marketing. You could be marketing the product by just sending out pieces of information, right? Email or maybe a newsletter, a company's newsletter. You're talking about what's coming, and whatever other means they have in the company for communicating. You're using those mechanisms in the company: email, text, whatever the case may be. Meetings. A lot of times, sometimes they call road shows. I don't know if you've heard of that or not. Road shows. Road shows. They use road shows. Road shows is nothing but showcasing it in maybe in a large meeting where you have a bunch of people. You have like a stage here, and you got a bunch of people here, and you're sort of doing a presentation here, about this product. So, or you could be just taking this application or whatever you're trying to deploy from one meeting to another. You may have a bunch of meetings, 4 or 5 meetings, and you go from one meeting to the next. And you're a nice PowerPoint. You got to have a good PowerPoint, and somebody who can speak well about the project. And more than likely, the person would end up being either the sponsor or a champion or a lead person, somebody who understands the product. Maybe the product lead. The product lead could be a good one. Not the PM. The PM would not do well in this because obviously PM is not the product expert, right? So you need somebody who understands the product and can then talk about the product to the people who are eventually going to be the end users. All right, moving on. Tailoring. I mentioned tailoring before. Tailoring is something to be understood, and tailoring is to tailor your project to the project type you have it at hand. So if you're going to do an upgrade project, so make sure you focus on, obviously testing, training, user awareness. If it's a new project, you're going to tailor it a little bit differently. If it's let's say it's a replacement project, replacing one application with another, you'll tailor it a little bit. Or if it's an improvement project, if you're trying to improve the workflow, for example, you're going to tailor it accordingly. So tailoring means to change the approach, and if you're using agile, for example, you made a decision. You said, I'm going to tailor it and use the agile approach. Okay, so that's tailoring also. So the exam in the PMP, they may ask you, they may give you a situation, and one of the answers might be tailoring. So you read the question, and if looks like they are trying to sort of change the approach to this particular type of project, and they're asking, what is the PM doing to make sure that the project is successful? Is that tailoring? Is that this? Is that that? So if you know what tailoring means, and there's a mention of approach, maybe you want to change the approach from a waterfall to a agile. So you see that happening, then you know that they're tailoring the project. All right, performance measuring baseline. So performance is always based on 3 main baselines. You have the cost baseline. And how do I know these? Because of the triple constraint. Cost baseline, schedule baseline, and the scope baseline. So if you look at the triangle, you'll remember those three baselines: 1, 2, 3. And what do we mean by baseline? Baseline is this is if you want to know how I'm doing. For example, you are trying to lose weight, for example. So you use this measuring, your weighing machine, right? You use your weighing machine to see your performance. Have I lost X amount of weight in a month? That's how you're gonna measure yourself by weighing yourself. Same thing in a project, you're going to look at the cost. Did we overspend or did we underspend or we were at the budget? So we're looking at the BSC, the budget at completion, which means we got $100,000 and we complete the project within that $100,000. We didn't overspend. If we had to reforecast and get some more money, we look at our ETC, estimate at completion, ETC, estimate to completion, ETC. I'm sorry. Estimate to completion. This is where you added $10,000 more because you need more money. So performance-wise, you're looking at this number here. If you didn't ask for any money, you're looking at this number here. BSC, budget at completion. ETC, estimate at completion. E8, ESC, ETC. All right. Then schedule. Again, we said we're going to complete the house in 3 months. Your performance is going to be to make sure you do it in 3 months. If not, that means you had variance. So variance, as part of monitoring and controlling the project, I'm looking at the variance. How am I varying from my baseline? So my baseline says I got to complete this project in 3 months. My baseline says I got to stay within the scope. The baseline says, when I say stay within the scope, I mean if you had to do 5 user stories, or you had to build a house without the pool, I need to make sure I build the house without the pool, right? So that's what I'm doing as far as the scope is concerned. Schedule 3 months. You got to stay within the 3 months. Cost $100,000 I was given. Stay within that. All right. So if not, then you are going to have a variance, either positive or negative. Negative means you fell behind. Positive means you were okay. You did well. Change management plan. This is what I was talking about. CM plan, change management plan, and we kind of discussed it earlier, so I won't go over it again. Configuration management plan is about configuring, for example, your process of how you're going to do things. You may have, let's say, a system which tells you how to do things in terms of the people management. Let's say you were managing people and the system was telling you that during planning you need 2 people, during execution you need 3 people, and during closing obviously you need 0 people. So this configuration management plan is sort of helping you configure the capacity of the resources that are being utilized in this project. So that's what this is an example of that. Project documents. We talked about project documents. All the documents that you have used in the project, starting from the very first one, which is the charter, and the very last one in the closing, you have the final report. You have the final report. In between, you have all sorts of documents. The important ones are schedule. The other important one is the budget. And then you may have the contract. Maybe the blueprint, right? Your design, your blueprint design. And you're doing building, testing, your test results, and then training documents, and then you got sign-offs, right? Sign-offs, all of those things. All of those things are going to be part of the documentation that you're keeping. Now, when you are in a company, they have their own policies, procedures, so you have to know what they are. and capture all of that information as part of your project planning, project execution. All right, so now that we have the plan, actually, to start the plan, we're going to do the kickoff, right? We went through that. We got the people, and we're going to do the kickoff. Now, this work authorization system is specifically for in what sequence we're going to do things. What sequence we're going to do things with people. What sequence do things with people. Now, this is not everybody has this system. I've never seen a system. I've never worked on a system like that before, but I've read about it quite a bit. There is this work authorization system. Maybe engineering firms and big other firms other than IT may be using it, where they put in all the stuff and it tells them what to do and how to do it, kind of thing. It's a work authorization system. It's a system that tells you what you should be doing first, second, third, almost like the schedule, the planning, everything is in this system, and it kind of guides you step by step. So just it's a concept you just have to be aware of. Maybe when we explore artificial intelligence, maybe this is the future, where this artificial intelligence is going to sort of tell us what to do, when to do it, how to do it, all of that good stuff. So that would be the ideal work authorization system. All right, knowledge management. We talked about knowledge management. We got to capture everything, the how. Especially we're focusing on the how. The how to transition the project from project to operations. How are we going to do that? How is the people who are going to actually use what we have produced, the value that we're giving them, how they're going to use it on a day-to-day basis? I mean, you had the project, you brought people in, they built this beautiful car, you're done with it now. You're not going to be driving the car anymore. We're done. So somebody else is going to be driving the car, and all that knowledge that went into producing this car has to be captured, so somebody else can maybe tweak it and do a phase 2 and build another car. So this knowledge management and lessons learned is part of that, right? Lessons learned is part of your knowledge management, and all the other things that are bits and pieces that go into the how. Explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. So there's some knowledge that you are given, and I think it's explicitly explained. Here it is. Here's a procedure to test the motor of the car. Here's a procedure to test how well we can operate this machine. So those are sort of given in writing. They're very explicit. There is some other knowledge which is called tacit, which is not explicit. It is learned knowledge that you get from experience. Experiential knowledge from experience. So there are two types of knowledge. One is that sort of given to you, you buy it, you go and get a third-party solution from a vendor, and they tell you everything. They tell you how to do it. And there's some other knowledge. For example, the PM knowledge, it doesn't come in a box. You got to go through some projects, and you got to go through this learning, and now you have this knowledge that you've gained through doing some projects or you experienced it, and that's called tacit. So keep those concepts in mind. All right, osmotic communication. What is that? Who can pull this up and see what that means?
It's on page 92 in the book.
Okay, read it off, Olivia. What does it say?
Okay, it's going to be informal sharing occurs through the application of interpersonal and team skills, including active listening and networking. The agile concept of osmotic communication describes the phenomena of communication and knowledge sharing being facilitated and enhanced simply by team members being in approximately to one another.
Okay. Okay. Osmotic is almost like organic. I would say it's organic. Organic, where you, as you are working with each other actively, you are communicating and making things happen organically, and it's a formal type of communication that's going on, and that's what is another means by which you should be productive. So it's another way to be productive is through osmotic communication. Active listening, again, is a key ingredient of that. And you and here it talks about agile um, as an environment where you will see that. Um, so so anyways, keep that in mind. That is on page 392. Lessons learned, change requests, corrective action, preventive action, change. So we talked about all of this stuff. Um, so corrective action, yes.
It's gonna be in page 92, not 392. 92.
Oh,
Yeah.
92. Okay, 92. So corrective action is going to cost you dollars. Preventive action is going to be free in some sense because you are preventing things from going wrong. It's not costing you anything, but it's costing you by the fact that you're spending time and you're being aware of what's happening, and you're observing, and you're continually making changes. Continually you are trying to self-correct before a big catastrophe happens. So so preference is to do preventive action, and that's on a continual basis. Corrective, some most of the time comes from CRs, change requests, unless it's insignificant. There's some, when you do lessons learned or retrospectives. Remember in Agile you do retrospectives, and you learn something new, and then you go and you correct those. So those are corrective actions, and they're not very significant. They're slight. So anything that's not significant, obviously, is not gonna cost you money. And if you're doing preventive action, it's almost like healthcare. If you're taking care of your body, you are, for the most part, are going to be well. But if you lapse in taking care of yourself, then major things can come up, significant things can come up, and that's going to cost you money. So best thing is to take preventive action, go exercise, go to the gym, eat well, and you're what are you doing? You're doing corrective. You are doing preventive action. That's all preventive, right? So that's what I think works also in the project environment. You should always be looking for trying to improve by doing preventive measure, taking preventive measures. Okay, so this is the change control I spoke of earlier, and the difference between how changes are dealt with in each of the approaches. The plan-driven, which is the predictive, and the adaptive. And the transitions are, sort of hybrid. You can have both. So we look at those. Again, understand the change with the change requester. Most of the time, it's a stakeholder, and then do an impact analysis, and then get approval, and then go back to execution phase to make this happen. All right. So this is a review of the concepts we talked about. Explicit, codified knowledge found in documents, databases. It is essential for transfer and storage. So this is codified. In other words, it's given to you. Tacit, this is intuitive. You learn by doing. know-how, rooted in context, experience, practice, and values, hard to communicate, resides in the mind of the practitioner, the best source of long-term competitive advantage and innovation, transferred through socialization, mentoring, etc. All right, keep those in mind. What do we have here? Yeah, this looks like predictive to me, right? And this looks like agile to me. Do you all agree? This is sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, sprint 5. Every time they go in, they produce something, the customer says, nah, something is missing. They go back and they come up with a new thing. The customer says, yeah, looks good, but they go back and they come up with this new thing, this bike here. Customer says, I wish it looks good, but I wish it would run faster. They go back, come up with a motorcycle. The customer says, but I have a whole family. I cannot, ride the bike with 4 of my kids. They go back and they build a car, and the customer now is happy. See that? So this is the agile methodology. Sprint. You're going through phases, and the customer really doesn't know what they want. You see, that's the reason they went through this cycle, because the requirements were fuzzy. This is actually a very good example here. The requirements were fuzzy, and you couldn't just build it, because you had to go through a process to understand what the customer wanted. And every time something was put together, the customer came back with something new. And obviously, they had to give you money to go to the next step. But this is the real reason why you go through this agile methodology, rather than, okay, you want to build a house, fine, we'll build a house for you in 3 months, and you get it done. There's no sprints happening, right? It's one time. In the beginning, they sit together, collect the requirements, they meet the customer, collect the requirements, they design, they plan it, and then they execute. All right. I think this was easy. And what we have here is sort of telling you, wherever there's chaos, see, wherever there's chaos, confusion, agile comes into play. Agile method. Where there's confusion, complexity, wherever there's simplicity, it's waterfall. So if you look at, this is simplicity, this is waterfall here, or predictive. Wherever there's complexity or chaos, confusion, or not a clarity is missing, not clear, you start to go through these sprints to understand exactly what they want, right? So because the customer doesn't know. The customer is willing to pay, but doesn't know exactly what they want. They want to see the evolution of the product. All right. All right. Let's see what else is here. All right. So now we're going to focus on what's happening in the build process. So we said we're going to execution, right? So we in execution, we are building the car. We're building the car. All right, so this is where the PM is sitting down. This is where the PM is right here, and inputs to building the car as a plan, approve changes, corrective actions, preventive actions, defect repair. So these are things that are happening as part of the build. And output is you get a new change. If a new change, you do your impact analysis, and if it gets approved, it goes back in here and directing and build some more of it. And eventually what you get out of all of that effort is this deliverable, work performance, WPF, work performance report should be PR. What goes in is the data, is the work performance data. What you get out is work performance information, WPI. There should be an I here. Okay, so data goes in, outcomes, work performance information. You inform the customer by sending out reports, right? Sending out reports, and so this circle continues. You are doing the work here. This is where the team is, right? Team is right here inside this circle. They're doing the work, producing deliverables. Deliverables are going to the customer for validation. If there's any issues, you're updating the issue log. And then changes that are happening, they're getting approved, and then it goes back in. So this is almost like a machinery. It's a machine. In the build phase is like a machine. Things are happening, things are breaking, things are getting fixed. You're getting changes, change approvals, deliverables are being produced. Customers looking at the deliverables, accepting them. You're also testing the product. The test results coming out, and the test results hopefully are good, and so all of those things are happening. So this is just sort of giving you an idea of directing the project work. That's what we call the building of the car, the build process. Building and testing go together. Actually, whenever you build, you test. They go together. Okay, so Agile. So another review of Agile for folks who have forgotten what Agile is. User stories. These are the requirements. So design thinking here. Product backlog where all the user stories are living. We pull some from here into the sprint log to work on our sprint. The Scrum Master or PM is right here. The product owner is right here. It's almost like the sponsor. And then team is right here in this 2 to 3 week, actually it's 2 to 4 week sprint. And these are your daily stand-ups. There are 3 meetings that are going on here. The sprint planning meeting, there's a sprint review meeting which is happening somewhere here. And then you have the retrospective meeting right here. And then here you're releasing the product. Now and then up here, you are doing your monitoring and controlling. This looks like a Kanban. This could be a Kanban board. You are looking at the backlog. All of these things are in the backlog. These are things that were selected, and now you have this. Now you are monitoring how many are in progress. B and C are in progress. A is done. So we say done here, and then you push them out into production. You push them meaning go live into production. So these are already done or in the release. They have been released. So flow going from backlog to, this is your sprint log right here. Right here, this is your sprint log. From backlog to sprint log. And any questions? All right, this was sort of another review.
So the selected section, so we have A and done, B and C and ongoing. So they're in a sprint. and then the selected is going to move into the sprint once B and C moves into done, correct?
Yes. So A is done, B and C are being worked on. Once they're done, they'll go into this section here, right? And then D and E are going to be pushed into here. And so yeah, this is the sprint log. This is waiting, right? This is like waiting out here. They're waiting, and this is in progress. This is your in progress, and this is like done. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so let's move on. Yeah, we're doing step by step, and this shows the progress of the work being done in an agile approach. All right, so a little bit more detail about the agile methodology. There are 4 major rules in agile. What are those 4 rules? Let's make sure my pen works here. Okay, back up. So what are the 4 rules? Rule number 1, this one, individual and interactions over processes and tools. So in agile, everything is sort of informal, right? You go into your backlog, pull out your work or user stories, put them back in the sprint log, and then you work on them. So that's the process you really have to be aware of. There aren't any complicated other tools that you have to use. Unlike, let's say, in a waterfall or predictive, where you may have tools and this and that, you may have a formal process for doing things. In agile, things are very informal. You just go and you get it done. You are self-managing. You have self-managing teams, and they are pretty much empowered to get it done. They are all skillful. They don't need a lot of training because they're all very skillful, and they start to work immediately because they only have 2 to 4 weeks to get it done. You cannot train them because if you were to train them, then you would need more than 2 to 4 weeks, right? They come trained. They come trained. Unlike in the waterfall, you may have to send them out for training a couple of weeks, a week at least. Especially if you are getting a third-party solution, your in-house team members may not know how to operate. So you may send them to the site, to the vendor site, to be trained on the product before you deploy it. Okay, so that's one. Working software over documentation. So as soon as you start to work, you get your you put your hand into this backlog, you pull out your user stories, and you start to work on them. In the predictive, the waterfall, there is documentation. There's a lot of procedures and you have to follow and such. In agile, there is documentation, but not as much. I won't say there's no documentation. When you are coding, for example, if you're building an application, a website, and you are hiring somebody or this agile team to code for you, you have to document a little bit of how you're coding because somebody has to maintain the code at some point after it gets deployed. So, but it's not very intense. The coding, the documentation, it's very informal. That's what they're saying here. So documentation is less. I won't say it's zero. It's less. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So there is no RFP process when it comes to agile. There is no RFP process. There's no procurement process. You don't have to select a vendor. You don't have to go through the scoring or weighing or this bidders conference to get them in so that you can listen to what they're saying and to provide them feedback or the contract process. None of that in the agile. So there's more customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Last is responding to change or following a plan. So if there's a change, if there's a scope change or CR, we'll just get it done. There's no, if there's impact analysis, you will understand, you'll do your impact analysis, but you'll get it done. There's no formality in this. There's no integrated change control. There is no integrated change control in Agile. It's a pretty rudimentary. You just go to the product owner and ask them, can we make this change because the customer wants a different color, wants a different menu item, wants a different page, and can we just add that page to the website? Product owner will say, okay, how long will it take? Oh, it's just going to take me about 5 minutes. Okay, go do it. You see that? There's no change control. There's no formal change control, no approval, none of that. It's just the product owner will say, yes, go do it. If it's significant, yes, and if it's something really big, then they may not even do it, right? They'll wait until the next sprint. All right, so those are the four things to remember. Now, there are some principles also that you should at least be aware of. You don't have to memorize them, just be aware of these. In case they show up in the PMP exam, at least you know that you've heard of it. Customer satisfaction by continuous delivery of software. So customer satisfaction is very important in Agile. It's also important in predictive, but in Agile, you're working with the customer very closely. And the reason is because you only got 4 weeks total per sprint. So you got to keep showing them what you're building. Doing your sprint reviews. So sprint, you have at least 2 sprint reviews over the course of 4 weeks. And you're in those sprint reviews, you're showing to the customer what you have built thus far. So customer satisfaction is important for that very reason. Okay, next is welcome change requirements. So again, change requirements are no big deal. You want to change, we'll do it. Frequent delivery of software, sprints. That's why every sprint you can deliver something. Frequent delivery. So if a PMP question has a situation where they are delivering very frequently, you know what they're doing. It's a sprint approach, and that's what's going on there. Close daily interaction scrums. Okay, we know about daily stand-ups. That's part of it. Face-to-face is the best form of communication or co-location. Very important. This is very important point here. So in Agile or Scrums, you are not doing stuff behind the wall. Your teams are right there in the room, co-location right here, co-located. And when I say self-managing, because the only way you can self-manage if people are close by. You cannot self-manage if people are in different buildings, right? It's very difficult to self-manage or collaborate, especially in a 2 to 4 week project. You may have a question, you can quickly ask the person next to you, hey, I'm stuck here, can you help me, right? And so if people are working very closely with each other and everything is co-located for the most part. Working software equals progress. So whatever you're producing means you are producing value. So your working software, your deliverables are the fruits of your effort. So you're producing something all the time. Sustainable development. You got to make sure your sprints are lined up correctly, so you can sustain the development. One sprint done, next sprint starts. Next sprint done, third sprint starts. So it has to be sustained. So you can complete the final product and release it, right? Sustained. Technical excellence and good design. Obviously, you have to make sure whatever you produce is of highest quality. And so the quality is built into your process. The quality is built into your process. It's built into your process usually as well. It's not that for this you have to build it into the process. That's what is usually done. But here, in order for you to release something, you really have to know what you're doing, really. So simplicity. Simplicity is the key. Complexity is not the key. Simplicity is the key. Sometimes you want things to be simple. They end up being very complex. But at least from a user standpoint, if you look at the watch, the watch we wear or we have on the walls, they look simple, right? From face value, if you look at the watch, I have a watch on my left hand. It's on my wrist here. I'm looking at it. It's simple. I can tell the time, and I don't have to push any buttons or anything. It's very simple design, right? But if you open the watch and look inside, it's very complicated. So when they say simplicity, I think they're what they mean is from the usability standpoint. From the usability standpoint, and if you look at a website, everything looks very simple. Oh, touch this button, touch that button, pull down, and whatnot. So it's simple, right? But if you take the cover off this website, behind the scenes is full of code. This is very complex behind the scenes. So I think what they are saying here is simplicity should be there for the user. For the user. Now for the programmer, it's a different ball game, right? It's a different ball game. What you're calling simplicity for them may not be that simple, but the end result should be simple, simplicity. All right. Best architecture requirements from self-organizing team. So I said self-managing. So self-managing, organizing teams is the same thing. That's what I mean. Self-organizing. They organize themselves. They collaborate well. They are very cohesive. They work together very well. They get to know each other and work very well. They're all skillful. Those kind of things. Continuous learning to improve. And that's the mantra. Continuously learn to improve. So since there are 4 or 5 people in these agile teams, you don't have more than 4 or 5 people, maybe 7 at the most, 7. So they're continuously learning about the product and also gaining knowledge about the practice and helping each other. So continuous learning to improve the product. So these are the 12 principles that you have to be aware of, and the 4 rules on the left-hand side of Agile. Rest is stuff for you. Okay, this is something. This is extra stuff I put in here. You can read on your own. All right, monitoring and control. So that's another process of integration, project integration. And I already talked about it, so nothing new here. You're looking at the triangle. That's what is shown here. Is a triangle. So focusing on preventive action, defect repair, change request, corrective actions. Okay, those things. Preventive action first, corrective actions second, change requests, we know what to do with them. Defect repair could come out as a problem. Then you have to figure out whether you want to fix it, and more than likely you're going to fix that repair. And so you're testing it. After you test, you get this, and then you fix it, and then you go back and rebuild until you don't have this defect. Changes. So we talked about the changes, and so what I'm going to add here is understanding. And this is very important from a PMP standpoint. You always have to understand the change before you start to. Approval comes down here. So understanding is first, impact is analysis second, identify options. Okay, so that's the new one, and then approval, and then you report back to the customer and communicate. Right here, and you communicate. So this is very important, how to handle changes. It's a PMP question. It comes in every test. They may give you these 4 steps and ask you which of those is the right answer. All right. We talked about the difference between plan-driven and predictive, how we handle changes. We talked about that already. And closing. So we're getting the closing. So let's see. Has anything else? Okay. So this is the last slide. So maybe I'll let you go. We are going to do some questions. Okay. So product charter, final report. So these are inputs, right? These are the input to closing. Your output is your final report, your final product, right? Your final product, final report. What they have not mentioned here is your lessons learned. Yeah, actually, this could be your lessons learned right here. Organizational process assets. So lessons learned is an asset, but final report is what you have to complete to close your project. And what they didn't mention here is the contract. Contract terms. Make sure you close the contract, and by that I mean pay the bills. Pay the bills. If you got an invoice coming in from the vendor, and there's one left, you've got to make sure before you close the project that you have paid the vendor their whatever is remaining. You get that done. All right. Oh, okay. We got some more stuff here. Okay. So this is when we do the requirements. Remember, when we do the requirements, we have to know the current state, and then we move on to the future state. Future state is the final product. Current state is where we are today. Where we are today. So we may have something today that we want to maybe replace with this new thing, So that could be a replacement project, right? Replacement project, where we have something and we want to replace it, or we could maybe we don't have anything and we're getting a new product. That would be a new project, right? That would be a new project. Or we have something and we want to upgrade it. If we do an upgrade, that would be an upgrade project. So we have something, and we want to make it better. That would be upgrade project. And then finally, the future state is we have something to improve. And then final state would be we have a new workflow. New way of doing things. That would fall into the improvement type project. Okay, so this is about change management. So these are the 4 models. I'm not going to go over these. You can read them on your own. But this is all about change management. Change management. And the way it starts when you want to, let's say you want to improve something, and you tell people, we're going to change the way you do things today. So when you do that, when you tell somebody we're going to change your process and replace your process with something new, what would be the reaction? The reaction would be like this. They're all going to have a fit, right? They'll have a fit. They were right here, and you tell them there's a change coming, they all are going to go into a fit. Oh no, the earth is coming to an end for us. And then you're going to start telling them what it is. Oh, this is going to help you. This is going to make you better. So as you start to pump information, they're going to slowly start to understand and then gain confidence. And then you will see the graph going like this. And this is go live. So these change processes that are here, transition model, Virginia, satire, change model, 8-step model, Edgar model. They're on page 392. This is what they're sort of going to describe to you. And so two things usually we do right here. Two things. We start the communication, right? We start the communication. The communication starts actually right here. The communication starting from this point. And then somewhere around here, we start to train them. Have formal training. Somewhere around here. Almost 30 days before we go live. "30 days before, we start to train them formally, but we start to send them communication, make aware that something is coming sort of earlier than that. And we see this reaction. And our goal is to get them to overcome this reaction, become strong, so they can become good, productive employees, right? By the time they reach this level, which is operations. This is operations. So these are just different methods by which you go through this cycle. You can call this a cycle, change cycle. This is a cycle. So they may use different ways of expressing the cycle, but that's really what it is. Okay, we are done. We are done with integration. This is it. Now we're going to do problems. So let's take a break and come back here in about 15 minutes. So let's come back here at 8:10. How's that? We'll do some problems on communication. All right. So while you are out there getting some coffee, getting some drinks, whatever, I'm going to set up the PowerPoint for that, so we can do some problems on communication.
Киря, смотри.
Что там? Дорога?
Ага, огроменный.
Да, не пускай. Показывай. Да, не мне, а вот детям покажи.
Дам $10.
Вася! Зинь, пожалуйста. Алися прыгнет на меня. Сам так себе. Азия сейчас тебе в карман залезет. Уф. Не надо! Будешь кричать, он в рот залезет. Вон, Аришка любит. Азим, он побежал смотреть дорога. Азим, он выбежит из мусорки, не кидай в мусорку, слышишь? Он выбежит из мусорки, не кидай в мусорку.
Не кидал. А лишнее место там полно, ничего.
Раздави?
На улицу, на потом выкини.
Да, конечно, он обратно залезет.
Is everyone back?
I am.
Okay, Javier is here. We can get started.
Yep.
Okay, Azim's here. Okay.
Olivia and Latrice also said, yeah.
Oh, okay, great. I'm about to share my screen, so just hang in there, guys, for a second. There we go. So we are going to do some problems on communication, and I'm looking at the old book, the 10th edition, page 362, and we'll do. Not all problems are good, but that's fine. At least we'll get some idea of what the problems look like. And if you've gone through the concepts, you should be in good shape. So let's just make this full screen. Put this here, and see if we can enlarge the. So here's the first. This is just.
Yeah, you flipped the page.
Yeah, let's just see what's going on here. There we go. Let's see. All right. So who wants to go first? Question number 1. Okay, go ahead.
Team member has been late to several recent team meetings, and the last 2 deliverables he submitted were not acceptable. The project manager decides he can no longer wait for things to improve and must address the issue with the team member. What is the best form of communication for addressing this problem? Formal written communication, I think. If it's a serious offense and they may end up having to get fired, so that should be formal, is my thinking.
Okay, any other opinions?
Yeah, because if it's his first time, it's gonna be informal at the beginning. But if it's get repetitive, it's gonna be formal verbal, and then the last thing is gonna be written.
I think that it would be informal, verbal, just because in our position, we want to maintain relationships and we kind of want to lead and just, and depending on the kind of project, we may or may not be in the position to write a formal, right? We may have to go through the resource manager. So if it hasn't been addressed before, I think that it would be an informal verbal.
Yeah, I
I
agree
also
with
think
that.
that it's informal verbal. Like it was, I don't know where I've read it, but it said that the best way to communicate for project manager is informal verbal communication.
Yeah, I think one reason good answers, and I know the first 2 also were thinking logically, and the reason I think we go with informal then formal is because of the fact that we don't have authority over these resources. Number one, right? We have power, right? Our power is not that of a direct report or supervisor or manager, and so our power is mostly over the process. We have our own authority, but that authority doesn't allow us to put pressure on our team members. But we do want to work with them. We do want them to change. We do want them to improve, and so we don't want to go with the formal anything. We don't want to go with formal anything. We want to start with informal first. So our gut is to go informal, verbal communication, and talk to them and make them understand, what they're doing wrong and how they should improve. The formal would be probably a second or third step, not the very first step. And even if and I hear a team member has been late to several recent meetings, but you see what the default or what the problem is. The problem is being late. You don't want to be formal with a team member if he or she is late to team meetings. That offense is not very. It's not very. It doesn't require you to take the, a formal formal approach. Thank you. So, and you have to look at the offense too. What type of offense it is. You have to also keep in mind that these people are going to stay with you for many months, and you want to try to change them, improve them in a way that will not make them cringe, So informal verbal is the best approach, and keep that in mind, because in the PMP exam they're going to ask you the exact same question, if not the same way, but in a different way, but same exact thing. And because this is an important aspect of being a PM in a project is how you deal with the with your resources for folks who work for you. So good discussion, very good discussion. I think we learned something from here. Thank you for all four of you. I think you all had good points, and I think we learned a lot here. All right, moving on. Number 2.
I'll do number 2.
Go ahead.
Communications are often enhanced when the sender blanks the receiver, speaks up to, uses gestures when speaking to, speaks slowly to, shows concern for the perspective of. So I think that is D. Communications are often enhanced when the sender shows concern for the perspective of the receiver. I think that's just like anytime you want to communicate and you want to get a result, you want to show the person that you're speaking to that it benefits them too. It gives them initiative to get what you need.
Emotional intelligence also plays here, right? When you show concern for the perspective of, you're sort of putting yourself in their shoes. You're trying to understand them. Okay, I think that is the right answer. And anyone objects to it?
I think every answer is, I don't know, I feel like every answer is correct, because in terms of enhancing the message to the receiver, if you speak it up, it will enhance it. If you use gestures, it will enhance it. If you speak slowly, it will also enhance it. Like, I don't know, why don't they have the option of saying like all the answers are correct? That's how I feel.
I like that answer too. So you will find that not often, but quite in many times where they'll have good answers and not so good answers. So you have to pick the best answer. So speak up to like you said. It's not a wrong answer, right? Using gestures, not a wrong answer. Speak slowly to is not a wrong answer. Shows concern for the perspective of the receiver. Showing concern, and I use the word emotional intelligence. So that is something that is good. You know, if you are able to sense what the other person is saying, right? You're able to feel them, and I think showing concern has to do with feeling, has to do with emotions. The other ones are good answers, but not this one is probably the best. For that reason that it has emotion as part of the answer. All right, number 3.
I can take it.
Sure.
Okay, the new project manager has a team including several individuals for whom English is not their first language. He frequently uses technical jargon from his former company, which is unfamiliar to these team members. When discussing work activities with his team members, the most likely result of communication blockers is that the project is delayed. I don't think so. The trust level is enhanced. Definitely not at this point. Senior management display. Okay, conflict. Okay, so I think, in my opinion, it's gonna be conflict because of maybe culture differences, and everybody are saying their opinion, and that's why it happened a conflict. So they have to agree on one thing.
Yeah. Conflict doesn't necessarily mean disagreement, right? It also means, in like how it's described here, it's not the first language, which is unfamiliar to these team members when discussing work
Confusion,
activities.
right?
Confusion, right? So that can also cause conflict. So yep, let's move on. Number 4. Who wants to do?
4. I'll
Go
do
ahead.
number 4.
Okay.
Formal written correspondence with the customer is required when defects are detected, the customer requests additional work not covered under contract, the project has a scheduled slippage that includes changes to the critical path, or the project has cost overruns. I don't know, the project has a scheduled slippage that includes changes to the critical path.
So think of the stakeholders here to guide you. Who are the stakeholders, and what type of stakeholders are we looking at here in this question?
Well, our stakeholders with the customer.
So who is the customer? And what is the situation though? First, A is defects are detected, right? So do you need to formally correspond with customer about defects? Defects are detected. Usually, the team is the one who detects it and resolves it without bringing in the customer, right? So customer is not even included, so A is out totally. B, the customer requests additional work not covered under contract.
So
if-
contracts are formal,
Formal.
right? So if there's going to be a change to the contract, it needs to be
Formally done.
Yeah.
And
So
you
I
have
think it's
to
B.
get permission to change it. Okay.
I mean, no, everything is something you have to communicate, but formally, I guess it's just B.
The contract always. So for from the PMP and from the book standpoint, whenever you're dealing with contracts, when you're dealing with the vendor and the contract, it has to be done formally. Always when contracts are in question. So that when you see the word contract as one of the answers, immediately it should come to you. That's formal. I'm dealing with a contractor. I'm dealing with the contract and the contractor. So the contract itself is a formal document, right? It's a legal document. It has to be. So any change to that would have to be done formally. All right, good. Number 5. Who wants to do number 5?
I can do it. What is the most important factor in choosing how much to communicate project progress to business stakeholders? Whether the approach is predictive, change-driven, or hybrid. B, how much information the stakeholders expect you to provide. C, what reporting methods the team has used before and is familiar with, and D, how much time you are able to allocate to the reporting task. Okay,
So, Azim, go back, read the question again, and figure out who's it for.
yeah, it is for stakeholders. What is the most important factor in choosing how to communicate? So, when deciding how to communicate to project regarding project progress to business stakeholders, so I would get I don't know, because I feel like how much information stakeholders expect you to provide would not be the answer, because well, just I don't feel like that's the answer, and I would throw it away. How much time you would be able to allocate also is not the answer, because it's not for the project manager to decide. It's part of the work that he needs to do. So I also don't think that's the part. And so what reporting methods they used previously, I thought about that, maybe because we have some lessons learned method maybe. So I feel like whether the approach is
Azim,
predictive.
let me give you a hint.
Predictive,
Let me give you a hint.
yeah.
Give me a hint. Remember when we present information to teams, we give them a lot of detail, and when we present information to stakeholders, we give them a high-level information, maybe a bar chart or a milestone chart.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. Milestone, high-level information should go to the stakeholders, and detailed type information should go to the team. So keep that in mind as you look at this question here.
Yeah.
So see see, maybe that may help you a little bit.
Okay, if it's detailed or okay, so I would think that it depends on what kind of project we have. Is it predictive or change driven or hybrid? Because it matters, because if it's one or the other, you would have different time schedules for the reports to stakeholders, different volume of communication with stakeholders, because stakeholders are not only sponsors, right? It's different groups. It might be the vendor, it might be a customer, it might be anybody who is somehow interested in the project overall.
So Azim, let me talk about this. So here you're talking about communication, right? And
Yes.
you're talking about information, right? So communication and information, who is the audience for those? Who is it? Is it the people, or is it the process?
It's people.
People. So one of your answers should have people in it. So which one is it?
Well, people have B has the answer about people.
That's the answer. You're right.
Really?
So that is the answer.
Oh my
So
God.
so when you look at the question again, she says, what is the most important factor in choosing how to communicate project progress to which people, to business stakeholders? So the answer, so you got to read the question and figure out, I need to focus on the people. And then once you know that you have to focus on the people, then you look at the answers. The first one focuses on the process, right? The second one focuses on the people.
Yeah.
The third one focuses on reporting method, but the process, which is the process, right? And how much time you are able to allocate to the reporting task. Again, the process, but not to the people. B is the one which sort of focuses on the people. Who is it for? It's for the stakeholders. How much information the stakeholder expects you to provide. So it's a little bit, confusing, but that's why you have to read the question and look for answers in the question, and then see if those show up in the answer in your choices. The keywords in the question, keep those keywords in mind as you look at each of the responses and see any of the keywords sort of show up there or not. So, all right,
Thank you.
move on to number 6. Who wants to do number 6?
I'll do it.
Okay.
A large one-year telecommunications project is about halfway done when you take the place of the previous project manager. The project involves 3 different sellers and a project team of 30 people. You would like to see the project's communications requirements and what technology is being used to aid in project communications. Where will you find this information? A, the stakeholder management plan. B, the information distribution plan. C, the bar chart. D, the communications management plan. The project involves 3. You would like to see the project's communications requirements and what technology is being used to aid in project communications. So I would go with the communications management plan because that's where the information, if the data should be in the management plan. Well, no, it's got a bar chart because the others are plans, right? Wait.
So they're
You
talking
would
about
like to see the project's communication requirements and what technology is being used to aid in project communications. So I would either use the communications management plan or the information distribution plan, not the bar chart, because the bar chart gives like progress, I think, and not the stakeholder management plan because that's high level. So I would go with communications because that's what we're talking about.
so Litris, when you look at the question, the key word here is what? So let's see if we can find the keywords.
8 to
No, don't look at the answer. Look at the question, and in the question, tell me where
will you find this information? Okay.
What is the keyword in the question? Look at the question. So point to
Find information. Find this information.
Okay, that's the final answer. Where will you find this information, right? So if you back up a bit, look at the second sentence. It says the project involves 3 different sellers and a project team of 30 people. And the next sentence is, you would like to see the project communication requirements. So when you ever come across this communication requirements, that's a big giveaway right there. So project communication requirements and what technology is being used. So in all the plans, you start off with what first? When you get into from initiation into planning, what is the first thing you do? When you go from, what is the first thing? No.
Gather requirements.
Say it again.
Gather requirements. The first thing is you gather requirements, right? So requirement is the first thing you do after you go from initiation into planning. So here they're talking about communication requirements, right? So communication requirement, and when we talk about all the processes, when we say the planning, communication, planning process is step number 1. So when you talk about let's say procurement, we talk about procurement planning. We talk about let's say cost planning. So the very first step is always planning. Whenever you come to the word planning, what should ring in your mind is requirements. So planning means I got to find the requirements first. So in the plan. So here they're talking about communication requirements. So that means they are in the planning step. So if that's the planning step, then and it's about communications. So where is communication and the planning step in these answers? Stakeholder, not communication, management plan, information distribution. In the stakeholder management plan, you'll have the stakeholder requirements, right? In the information distribution plan, which is actually doesn't exist, but let's say if that was a true answer, then the information requirement would be in there. The bar chart is just information, it's just a piece of information. The communication management plan, so the communication requirements would be in the communication management plan. Communication requirements match up, that's the answer. So sometimes you sort of have to kind of know a little bit more, but you're getting there. I think you got there already. So, but anyways, so a little bit more to it. So just keep the keywords in the question in mind as you eliminate answers that don't have those keywords. So communication and requirements were the two things. You looked at the answer. Where is communication? Right now, D only has communication, so you could have limited ABC right away. But let's say you did not, but then you look at the plan. Okay, so they all have plans. Which plan is the correct one? Where we have communications, it's got to be the communication plan, right? So you got to sort of look at those things to sort of come to the right answer. All right, great. I think we're doing good. Let's go on to the next set of questions. I think we're learning here. All right. So who wants to go to number 7?
I'll take it.
Okay, go ahead.
Changes in some project deliverables have been documented in the project management plan. These changes, along with other project information, have been distributed according to communications management plan. One stakeholder expresses surprise to the project manager upon hearing of the documenting change to a project deliverable. All stakeholders receive the communication providing notifications of the change. What should the project manager do? All stakeholders received the communication providing notification of the change. So he should have seen that, this person. That he expressed surprise to the project manager upon hearing or documented change to a project deliverable. Okay, so A, determine why the stakeholder did not receive the information and let him know when it was published. B, ask the functional manager why the stakeholder did not understand his responsibility. That's a throwaway. C, review the communication management plan and make revisions if necessary. That's a good answer. D, address the situation in the next steering committee meeting so others do not miss published changes. So D, I think it's another throwaway answer. So there's a couple good answers here. So it could be C, and then it could be A. So the first thing would be to see if he indeed, this person did receive it and he just did not read it, or something failed on sending the information. So I think it is A.
So let's read the sentence number 2, second sentence. Go ahead and read it.
One stakeholder expresses surprise to the project manager upon hearing of a documented change to a project deliverable.
So that's the surprise that the stakeholder expressed, right? And so there is something that the stakeholder saw in the report that caused the stakeholder to express a surprise. Now let's read. So that seems to be the problem here.
Right. So he's surprised of hearing of a change.
And so the project manager says, okay, he is surprised. What did I write? What did I give it to him?
All stakeholders received the communication providing notification of this change. What should the project manager do? So they have, he supposedly was to receive this information, not to be surprised.
No, he received. I think he received the information, and he was surprised by it, right? He expressed surprise, right? He expressed surprise by receiving this information, and so the project manager is thinking.
So if you go back, the first sentence, changes to some project deliverables have been documented in the project management plan. So it's been documented. These changes, along with other project information, has been distributed according to communication management plan. So so they were informed.
So he got the information.
He got surprised. All stakeholders received this information. What should the project manager do? Review the communication management plan and make revisions if necessary. Determine what stakeholder did not receive the information. So he did receive the information. So that's A is wrong. Ask the functional manager why the stakeholder did not understand his responsibility. I don't know necessarily if we can determine that there was a responsibility he was supposed to do.
The second sentence in the question.
these changes, along with the other project management information, have been distributed according to the communication management plan.
According to the plan, right?
Right.
So he did according to the plan. One of the stakeholders sort of complained or at least expressed surprise, and now the project manager, is scratching his head. Hey, I have done my thing according to the communication management plan. Why is the stakeholder expressing surprise? So he needs to do what?
See.
Review the plan and see what is there that
What went wrong?
what went wrong. What should I do? So all right, that's how you sort of have to understand what exactly is going on here and look for a simple answer, not for a complicated one. So again, there was in the question they did mention communication management plan, right? So that keyword was there, communication management plan, and that's what starts everything. So in the answer, you saw in C the word communication management plan also. So there was a match there. And if you have not read anything, if that match would have said, maybe I should look at this a bit more carefully here. There, the keywords are being repeated in the answer. But then once you look at the logic of it, that makes sort of sense. All right, going to number 8. Who wants to take number 8? Olivia,
Yes.
you got number 8.
Okay. Communication is key to the success of a project. As a project manager, you had 3 stakeholders, okay, with whom you needed to communicate. Therefore, you had 6 channels of communication. So you have 3 and 6 channels, okay. A new stakeholder has been added, means it's gonna be 4 stakeholders, with whom you also need to communicate. How many communication channels do you have now?
Okay, that formula you have to use. What
Yeah.
formula? Let me just write it here if I can. Let me write here. N into n minus 1 divided by 2. So do the math and see what you come up with.
Okay.
Let me just go down here.
And the N is for what? Like
N is the number of channels, number of people.
Okay, the 6 channels, okay.
No, okay. You have to figure out how many people there are.
Okay, got it. Okay. Give me 1 second then, because
3 stakeholders with whom you need to communicate. Therefore, you had 6 channels. 3 stakeholders, 3 stakeholders.
Yes, back here. N into n minus 1 divided by 2 is equal to what? Now, what is n equal to? So let's see. 3 stakeholders with whom you need to communicate. Therefore, you had 6 channels of communication. A new stakeholder has been added with whom you also need to communicate. So 3.
they added a fourth one to the stakeholder, so I'm not sure.
4.
Yeah.
And then the PM.
Okay.
So 4 plus 1,
5.
5. So 5 is your N. You put in 5 here. So what do you get? 5 into 5 minus 1 divided by 2. You get 4, 20 divided by 2. You get 10.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 is one answer.
Okay.
So that is the answer, right? Let me just check the book. Yeah, that is the answer. What they're confused, they may have confused you with this 6 channels.
Yeah.
So I would say count the people first before this is to confuse you, this 6th one. So the people, this is one person right there. You got 3 there. And then you have a new stakeholder. There's one more here. So 3, 4, and 5. So the 6th channel was just to confuse you, because the channels is what you are really trying to drive, right? That's what you're trying to come up with. So So, and 6 is not even an answer here, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you do it. All right. Hope
Okay.
everyone got that. N into n minus 1 divided by 2 is how you find out how many channels. Channels means how many people you're going to be communicating with, given that you have 5 people. So that's the number of channels that you'll have to deal with. I'm sorry, not 5, 10 channels you have to deal with, given that you have 5 people in your team, including yourself. All right, so let's go back to number 9. Who wants to take number 9?
Two people are arguing about what needs to be done to complete a work package. In addition to the words being spoken, if the project manager wants to know what's going on, she should pay most attention to what is being said and when, what is being said, who is saying it, and the time of day, physical mannerisms, and when during the schedule this discussion is taking place, the pitch and tone of their voices, along with their gestures. In addition to words being spoken. I would say pay attention to also the pitch and tone of their voices. They could just be having a constructive disagreement. So kind of look at their gestures too.
Yeah. D, it sounds like is the first thing especially if you're observing, right, people, and by the pitch and tone, you can tell whether they are arguing or they are discussing, right? And so that would be the first clue to whether you want to intervene or not, or you want to help them or not with the issue they are having. So D, that's what D is the right answer because of that fact. I mean, even though A, you may think what is being said and when. That sounds like it's not a bad answer, right? What is being said and when. You can, based on what is being said and when, you can sort of figure out whether that's a conflict or not. But the pitch and tone is something that gives you more data, right? More data about whether you should intervene or not, or whether you should help them or not. Instead of what being said, if their pitch and sound is high pitch, high sound, definitely something is wrong. When you talk to people and you discuss, you don't raise your voice, right? You keep your tone, your pitch level, at a level plane, at some level, so that you can communicate in an orderly fashion. All right, number 10. Who wants to do number 10? Azim.
Okay. What's the best way for agile team to share their progress with other project stakeholders? A, information radiators. B, memos. C, stand-up meetings. D, retrospectives. Well, I guess because it's agile, it would be probably retrospectives. Because you have the previous
Okay,
experience.
before you, let me give you some information here.
Okay.
Information radiators, memos, stand-up meetings. So retrospectives are done at the end after we have completed the product. So you're doing a retrospective of how did we do, how well we did the sprint. Stand-up meetings is a daily thing that you do every day. Memos is something that you may be sending, I guess, to the team, informing them about something. It looks like a memo. Memo is a formal thing which you don't necessarily use. So anyways, so that's what that is. Information radiators are like whiteboards. You could consider them as whiteboard like I have right now, where you're putting information for people to see how they're doing. That's what information radiators are. Whiteboards where you're putting numbers about their effort. All right, now
Whiteboard. Okay. probably best way for agile team to share their progress with other project stakeholders. So is it asking about every like step of the agile project, not the whole
No. It's
project,
talking about
right?
how you're communicating to the team and to the stakeholders about the project's progress. How you're telling, let's say, the professor how I'm doing in the agile, you know, sprint in terms of my progress. So what would be the best way to give information to me and to my team and to the stakeholders? What would be a nice way to do it?
What would be probably stand-up meetings also, because in agile project,
Stand-up meetings is where the PM is sort of PM. So that's for PM only. So what's the best way for your agile team, not the PM? So PM is the one who's going to do the stand-up
I
meetings,
see.
and
Yes, I got it. Well, then it's probably information radiators.
yeah, that's it. So information radiator is going to be asked in the PMP exam for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you all know what information radiators means. It's like big whiteboards, places where people can put information, a chalkboard or a whiteboard or some sort of board that radiates information to the audience. And in this case, the audience is all the stakeholders, the team, and maybe including the product owner and maybe the PM. So that is the best answer. In the memos, you cannot communicate transparently, right? Stand-up meetings, that's for the PM, asking what you did yesterday, what you did today, and what you're going to do, what are your blockers, basically. So you won't be able to show them, what the status is unless you have a information radiator right next to you. Hey, this is how we're doing. Here's the information radiator, the Kanban board. Remember the Kanban board? If the Kanban board was here, that could be the information radiator. Anyway, or whiteboard. All right, good. We're learning from this one. Let's move on to number 11. Who wants to number 11? Anisha? Okay, who could be the one?
I'll do it. A project manager has a project team consisting of people in 4 countries. The project is very important to the company, and the project manager is concerned about its success. The length of the project schedule is acceptable. What type of communication should be used? Informal verbal communication, formal written communication, formal verbal communication, informal written communication. So because the people are in different countries, and time would be a factor, like you know the word I'm looking for. I would think that
time zones, different time zones.
Yeah, time zones. I would think that so you would use email to communicate, so that would be written. So I would say it would be an informal written communication. Just because formal, I'm thinking that when you think formal, you're thinking like contracts and stuff like that. And really, you just want everybody to be on the same page. So you got to write it, which will be written through email, but informally. So I'll go with D.
I'd say B is, you said B, right?
I said D as in dog.
D is not a bad answer. And so I would say there are 2 answers here for sure. One is D and one is B. Both are written, right? It has to be written, cannot be verbal. So, and the reason it cannot be verbal because of the fact that you're talking to different cultures, and the best way to make sure they understand what you said or you understood what they said is through written, some sort of written documentation, right? So written for sure is correct. Now, so you can eliminate A and you can eliminate C, right? So now the question is, should it be formal or informal? When I've looked at this, I was thinking informal also, Letras. So I think you were right on that. But the book is saying it should be B. Is it? Yeah. And so
Kind of
If
makes
you're-
sense if you think, like
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
cannot write in slang, right? Because other countries may not understand what that slang
yeah, absolutely, yeah, because it's a different culture, right? Different country.
Right.
You got to be precise, to the point, very formal. You want to make sure there's no misinterpretation, right? So if it's informal, maybe you may write stuff that may have slang in there, like you said, or may not be structured well, right? Formal, very structured well, clear, crisp, no way that it can be misinterpreted. All right, good. 12,
Okay, I can take it.
sure.
Okay, you have just been assigned as project manager for a large manufacturing project. This 1 year project is about halfway done. It involves 5 different sellers and 20 members of your company on the project. Team, you want to quickly review where the project now stands. So you want to quickly review, okay. Which of the following reports would be the most helpful in finding such information? Okay, definitely not forecasts or complications. So you want to know the progress of the project because you want to review everything and then know what is going to the keywords for me is that you want to quickly review the project, what is going on. So you want to know the progress of the project so you can go forward.
Okay, so so that's B is so progress is the right answer. They could have turned this around and said what type of report would benefit in this situation. In that case, you would select the milestone report, or bar report, or Gantt chart, something like that. And I'm sorry, you would select something that has more detail, like the schedule, which is or the Gantt chart. Because here you're talking about the project team, not the leadership team, just the project team. So in that case, but progress is the right answer. Very good. Moving on to the next page, which is, we have time. Yeah, we got 5-10 minutes, so let's just do a little bit more. Excuse me. Let's go back here. All right. Okay, who wants to take this one?
I'll be the guinea pig.
Okay, go ahead.
A team member is visiting a manufacturing plant for one of the suppliers. Which of the following is the most important thing to be done in a telephone call the project manager may make to the team member? Most important thing to be done in a telephone call to the team member. Ask the team member to repeat back what his project manager says. Review the list of contact information for all stakeholders. Ask the team member to look for change requests. Review the upcoming meeting schedule.
So first, eliminate the stuff that's not right. Just
Well, I'm not even sure I understand what he's asking. A team member is visiting the manufacturing plant, blah, blah, blah. Which of the following is the most important thing to be done in a telephone call the project manager may have to the team member? May make to the a phone call I may make to the team member. Ask the team member to repeat back what the project manager says. Maybe just to make sure that he's understanding what I'm asking. B, review the list of contact information for all stakeholders. The team member is not going to care about that. Ask the team member to look for change requests. That could be. Review the upcoming meeting schedule. The most important thing to be done in a telephone call the project manager may make.
So you're talking to the team member, right, on the phone, and you don't know what's it about. Number one, they don't tell you what's it about, right? So it's conversation. So he's talking to you about something, and you're listening, and then what? What would you do?
He's visiting.
And you're listening. Both are listening.
And I'm calling him. Right?
What will you ask?
I will probably see, right? Ask the team member to look for any change requests.
Where did that come from? Change request. I mean, change request is something that you do in the, when you're in executing phase, when you're building stuff. So does it say anything about executing or building, anything like that?
No.
So C cannot be the right answer. Then look for what's the other ask?
Meeting schedule? Probably not.
No, ask. Look for the ask.
Ask the team member to repeat back. Ask the team member to look for change. So A.
Yeah, so A is sounds okay. Let's see what else. Review the list of contact.
The contact information for all stakeholders.
But that doesn't give you any clue, right?
No.
To B. So B is out because there's no clue in the question. C, because it's just there's no clue about that. D, review the upcoming meeting schedule. Is there any clue about that? So A is one that's totally doesn't refer to anything. All it's talking about is communication. Repeat what I just said. Right? Repeat what I just said. That's what he's saying. As a team member, to repeat back what I said. Right? So make sure that you understood what I said. Sort of. Right? So it's all about pure communication. Right? Pure communication. There's no reference to anything. No reference to stakeholders. No reference to change requests. No reference to and so that's why A is the right answer, because your focus is on communication, pure communication. All right, it was a little confusing, but some of these questions are a little bit, but anyways, it was good. We went through that. So let's take an easy one that's not so wordy. Number 16 doesn't seem like it's very wordy. Hope it's not okay. Who wants to take 16?
Okay, I can try.
Okay, I'll take 16. A project manager has just been assigned a team comprised of team members from many countries, including Brazil, Japan, the United States, and Britain.
A project manager has just been assigned
okay,
a
so
team
it's been assigned as one of the team members. What is
from
her
many
best
countries,
tool for
including Brazil,
success?
Japan, the United States,
All right, so
and
we're
Britain.
talking about
What is her
all of these
best tool for success?
countries, team members. Okay, so which of these that are described below has team members in it? So B is out. Teleconference doesn't have team members in it, so B is out. So I'm going to go with process of elimination. B is out. C, A, I'm keeping A because A has something, because talk was a matrix and it's a RAM, responsibility matrix, responsive of what? Of people. So A has people, so A I'm going to keep. C I'm going to scratch off because doesn't make any sense. No people in there. Although teleconference, you're gonna, but there's no team members actually mentioned in the teleconference. So I wouldn't say that's the good answer. Team communication with the WBS. Okay, WBS is used for planning communication, but you don't communicate with WBS. You plan communication with WBS. Okay, C may be okay. So let's keep C, eliminate B. And then we need to eliminate one more. Well-developed interpersonal skills. What is that a tool? Well-developed interpersonal skills. So they're talking about tool. So skills is not a tool, right? So skill is, it is a skill of sorts, but they're looking for something more tangible here, I think. Okay, so I'll say D is out from that point of view. That leaves me with A and C. So knowing about the RAM, I know it has in it the responsibility of each team member. So once you assign as a team member to many countries, you want to know what the team's responsibility is. So that would be the RAM. The WBS is just going to help you plan communications, but won't tell you about the team members right off the bat, because WBS has deliverables, right? Deliverables, and so A is the answer A, right? 16. Oh, D is the answer. So A is not the answer. The answer is D. Well-developed interpersonal skills. So, okay, I back out and let somebody else take over, and I want to hear what you guys think.
Well, I would think that is interpersonal skills because you have, as the project manager, you have to be able to communicate with the different people in the different countries. So, interpersonal skill, I think that's where interpersonal skills come in. And it is a tool because a lot of being a project manager, if I understand correctly, is communication. You got to talk to the team, you got to talk to the stakeholders. Like you have to, there's a lot of communication involved. So that's what I think is D.
Okay, so
I would also
A
pick
is
that one.
Yeah, go ahead, Azim.
I would also pick that one. I was thinking about interpersonal skill because of the people from different perspective views, different mindsets, but interpersonal skills kind of unites it all. So I would pick that one.
I got it. So I think that's good. So as a tool, interpersonal skills I think would be on the top, and then everything else. I guess the second answer would be probably A, the RAM. But I think the D sounds like is a better answer because of what you guys just described. Very good. 17. Who wants to do 17?
I'll try. What is the best way to handle knowledge sharing on the agile projects you're managing? A, encourage knowledge sharing if possible, where the team shows an interest. B, give the team many tools and opportunities to share knowledge. C, facilitate a team meeting if there is time left at the end of an iteration. D, make sure the team is holding regular stand-up meetings. Knowledge sharing and agile projects, it's gotta be D. Ensuring that stand-up meetings happen because that's one of the best ways to share knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah,
all of them are answers.
Eliminate first. So you eliminate ABC. Is that how you ended up with D, or you just stand up and said D is the answer?
No. So I think all of them are answers. They're looking for the best way to handle knowledge sharing. So encourage knowledge sharing, if possible, where the team shows an interest. No, it needs to be whether they show an interest or not. Knowledge sharing needs to happen. So A, I think I would throw away. Give the team many tools and opportunities to share knowledge. That's a possible answer.
Like team site and folders and stuff like that.
Right. So given tools is a good way to encourage sharing.
Let's keep B.
C, facilitate a team meeting if there's time left at the end of the iteration. No.
C is out.
So C is out. Make sure the team is holding regular stand-up meetings. That's B. D is a good answer. So it's between D and B, and I think that's a better answer.
What do you guys think?
I think it's B, give the team many tools and opportunities to share knowledge, because the stand-up meetings is something that where the program project manager or scrum master is kind of in control and kind of guiding it. And with sharing knowledge, there are different ways for the team to do that without, doing it in the meeting.
Yeah, in the stand-up meeting, the Scrum Master, is trying to find out how they're doing the progress, right? The focus is the progress and roadblocks. What you do yesterday, progress. What you do today, progress. And then what blockers do you have? What are the concerns, issues you have? So that's what is the main purpose of that stand-up meeting, not really to you could actually give them updates or give them some tips and whatnot as the need arises, but that wouldn't be the source of knowledge sharing, right? The primary source of knowledge sharing, maybe something else. And I think B says give the team many tools and opportunities to share knowledge. So tools, that maybe is the key here. A tool could be other avenues, right? Other avenues of that for specifically for that. So D is not bad. I think B is better. So B would be, I guess, the top choice. for this one. All right, good. 18. Who wants to take 18?
I'll do it.
Okay, go ahead.
A project manager at a large consulting firm is asked to report on the actual project results versus planned results. The project is going well, and marketing department wants to see if the current results can be used in a future marketing campaign. The project manager should prepare a trend report, forecasting report, status report, variance report. A project manager is asked to report on the actual project results versus the planned results. The trend, I don't think it's the trend report because they're not asking for a trend. They're asking for results. And I don't think that is forecasting because forecasting is kind of predicting the future, and they're asking for what's actually happened versus what they thought were going to happen. And so I think that it would be either a status report or a variance report. And I'm guessing that is the variance report because they're asking for the difference between. D is my answer.
What do you guys think?
I agree with her.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Okay, yeah, variance really means the difference between actual and planned. That's what variance report is going to tell you. Status report will tell you the status, but may not necessarily tell you the difference between the two. All right, fantastic. I think that is all we're going to do today. So for our last class, which is coming up on Monday of next week, we're going to be doing a full review of all the weeks that we have been on this subject, PMP subject. So what I'm going to do is go through what I'm thinking of doing is let's go back to let's stop this one here. And let me share this other one. Yeah, this one. Let's see. Go back here. Stop this. Share this. Yeah, this. So you see this this slide. What I want to do is I'm thinking I'm going to work on this over this weekend, but this is what I'm thinking. Let's go back to this one, that we can take each section, for example, initiation, and look at everything that happens there. All the different deliverables, all the concepts that happens in the initiation box. Then we'll move to planning, and everything that happens in the planning box, all the concepts, everything possible, and then we'll jump from planning to execution and do everything that happens in the execution box, and then we'll go to closing. So we'll do one slide with just initiation and put all the concepts on that slide, or at least discuss it by looking at the book and the PowerPoints for initiation, that piece here, and this way we're going to review this whole workflow from start to end, the different concepts and how they fit together, how they connect. There will be one review. Hopefully we will take probably an hour just doing that. And the next 2 hours, we're going to talk about two things. Given this situation, what's going to happen next? Given this situation, what we're going to do next? If you're in procurement, what comes before? If we are, let's say, in procurement, we are trying to get a solution from a third party. What is the process? If we are in the planning process, what's the next process? So what's going to come next is what we're going to focus on the second hour. The third hour, we're going to focus on what can go wrong. what can go wrong in the initiation phase, what can go wrong in the planning phase, what can go wrong in the execution phase, and lastly, what can go wrong in the closing phase. So those three things we're going to talk about in coming Monday. Overall view, first hour. So we'll make sure we get it done in 1 hour, and then we'll talk about what can happen next in the next hour. And third is situations. What can go wrong? Because in the exam, the PMP exam, they're going to talk about what can go wrong a lot. They're going to talk about what the PM is going to do next a lot. You know, you're working on something, and now what should you do next? You know, so
a lot of questions are
focused on that. So always think of that. Even though I don't know if I will be able to cover everything in 1 hour, but that's what you have to keep in mind as you're studying for this. What should be happening next? So next, that's one thing. Those two, and then overall, you should know how things connect, given any project, where things are. You know, where am I? And so, all right. And then we'll talk about keywords. We'll talk about elimination. Same thing. We sort of review it. All right. That's the plan for next week. Class. I hope you all come to that class, and we'll see you there.
Bye, Professor.
All right.
Are we
Bye-bye,
gonna have
everyone.
a final or next week?
Thank you.
Final
Next
exam?
week is the last class.
Monday.
It says final exam the next week.
Yeah, that's going to be a final exam, a review with all of you.
Okay.
All right. So come review all the PowerPoints from first to now. Review them all. Come up with your questions, and then we'll do 1 hour of this, 1 hour of what's going to happen next, and the last hour of what can go wrong. And I'm going to come up with all kinds of questions, and we're going to review it, and then I'll give you that as a cheat sheet or whatever.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, guys.
Monday.
See you Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.